It's official. We're in business, guys.
All right.
Here's where we do it at, baby. Cooperative economics. What's happening, everybody? This is DJ the Money Coach coming to you live January 17th, 2024. And history has already been recorded. That's right. We just opened up a 220-unit luxury residential resort in Zanzibar. We also are completing 4 luxury townhouses in Zanzibar. And we're also going to open up the Pom Pom Lifestyle Resort in Zanzibar. It's Africans for Africans, supported by Black Americans unapologetically. So what time is it?
The Pom Pom
Lifestyle Movement can't be stopped. Hit the link. Join us on the Beaches World in Zanzibar. Home is ours. Peace.
All right. What's going on, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Family Finance Friday with DJ the Money Coach. And this show is brought to you by the DJ the Money Coach team and the 7 Spheres of Money systems. And before we go to tonight's beach, hit that like button if you're just tuning in. Share this video with at least 5 people. And if you're not already subscribed to DJ the Money Coach right here on YouTube, go ahead and do that so you can help us spread the word, spread the message, tap into the algorithms, so everyone can learn about the Pom Pom Lifestyle Movement and participate. And if you're new here and don't know what the Pom Pom Lifestyle Movement is, Pom Pom Lifestyle is plenty of money and peace of mind. And we invite you to come join us on the Beaches of the World Club 365, 7 days a week. Not just here on Friday nights. This is a lifestyle. And the beach that we're going to tonight is heading into, honoring the backbone of our families and in turn our communities, states, this country, the world. And I'm talking none other than our fathers. So let's get into it. Happy Friday, DJ.
What's up, Nick? What's happening? You know what I say, man? Every day above ground when you had your health is a great day to be alive, and no better day than kicking off this amazing weekend for, like you said, man, it is the foundation of society is fatherhood, headship. And we have not given enough, admiration, respect to fatherhood and the importance of it. Everything rises and falls on fatherhood or lack of fatherhood, no matter how you slice it. If you got a society that's doing well, most likely 9.9 out of 10 times is under great headship of fatherhood. If it's going off the rails like it is in America, it's because we have abdicated our role as fathers and we allow it to happen on our watch. So we are happy to celebrate Father's Day coming up on Sunday. And you know what? I just found out it's not even a national holiday. It's really a local holiday because there's no day off for it. And it's always on Sunday. So think about that. And it was so funny. I was watching this business show the other day, and they showed all these different days that were being appropriated by the alphabet mafia. Check this out. Almost 36% of fictional holidays are made up by the alphabet mafia. And think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, this month has been appropriated by the alphabet mafia. And we got to put an end to that. That's why fatherhood is so important. And it's extremely important for us to be stewards of our children, more so than ever. You know, think about all the challenges that you've had in your lives. You can generally attest that to lack of strong fatherhood in your household. Now, that's not 100% of them, ladies and gentlemen. And conversely, look at all the great things and the stability and the sanctity that most of us have that were beneficiaries of a two-parent household led by a strong, compassionate, righteous father. If you look right now at the illness in society, that illness manifests from lack of self-esteem, lack of knowing oneself, and generally that comes from the institution of fatherhood incorporated with the proper headship of motherhood. And now we have an opportunity, one weekend out of 52, to actually show reverence for the fathers who are doing the right thing and standing in the gap. It was so funny too, Nick. I had this other email sent to me, and it was this lady. Again, I'm not on TikTok. I'm very rarely on IG, not on Facebook or any of that stuff. But this young lady, she's sitting in the car, and she says, you know what? Would you rather have a paycheck, or would you rather have a, broke father who was doing the right thing? And she said she took a survey, and something like 75% of the women said they would want to have a paycheck. And then she immediately started to fight back the tears. She said, you know what? I have the paycheck, but I don't have the father in the lives of my young children, and I would give him that check back in a New York minute. And this sister was getting an alimony check and child support on time, but she said that does not compare to the absenteeism of the father of her young children. And she was sitting in what seemed to be a really nice looking car and everything. And she said, I cannot believe that women out here today think that it's more valuable to get knocked up, have a baby, collect a check, and rob their children of the most important element in their lives, which is a solid household with a mother and a father. So think about this. You have a lot of people who make a lot of money, Nick, and they're recklessly out here, creating babies, but because they can pay the alimony and give a lifestyle, they think that replaces their physical presence on a daily in their children's lives. And you can attest that immediately to the children just running amok because they don't have self-esteem. They have a false interpretation of who they are based off of having people inflate them through social media based on likes. And now you're out chasing something fictitious to keep you satisfied because you are empty internally, and now it's expressing itself externally in false bravado, false image, and all of that because you don't have the headship of fatherhood. And on top of that, when you don't have fatherhood, now you have women who are trying to be father, mother, pastor, preacher, and all that. And we always have somebody, Nick, that can say, well, hey, I'm the exception to the rule. I grew up in a single parent house with my mother, and I turned out great. but they very rarely tell you the whole truth, that how they went through the crap they had to go to before they got themselves right. And some of them, probably 1%, actually had a mother that can do both, and they turned out right and got onto a functional, non-dysfunctional family. But that's very rare. That's the exception to the rule. Most families that are built without the core traditional nucleus of father, mother, and child come into a lot of problems, especially for young women. Because a young girl gets her confidence and her self-esteem from their praise, the support of the father. Conversely, the young boy gets that nurturing from the mother when the father gives him the right discipline to say, hey, it's okay, but guess what? Dad is telling you how to become a man. But when that young girl looks to having, someone praise her, acknowledge her, naturally, ladies and gentlemen, God has designed us to be together. So she's going to be looking for a male to validate or invalidate her. And I don't care what you say, ladies and gentlemen, but all you have to do is look at the proof. Look at all the women who have run amok, and they're chasing image and money, but they're crazed. They're disrespectful. They try to emasculate the guy. They tell the guy that they are independent. Check this out, Nick. This is the irony. And this is how this ties into fatherhood. They'll tell you, I make my own money. I'm my own boss. I can do whatever I want. However, Nick, you need to pay for me. You need to pay for my meals. You need to pay for my clothes. You need to pay for my travel. But I don't need you because I got my own money. Is that not a contradiction? Now, conversely, ladies and gentlemen, on the other side of that, when a young boy is raised by a mother, he's over spoiled, mommified. And now that boy begins to objectify women, and he sees them as his tool to be a waste dump. Especially if that young boy has any semblance of physical attributes, intellectual attributes, and the mommy has taken him and used him as the surrogate to make him the father of the house. How many times have we seen that? I mean, Nick, you're a school teacher, where the mother is saying, hey, this is little daddy. This is little dad. He's the man of the household. And now you're giving him a false bravado of what your interpretation is of manhood, but is actually effeminate. So this young boy is acting more emotional than being logical and stable in his mindset. So now he's going from woman to woman to woman to woman and not being a stand-up guy. How many times we see that? All the time. And you know what the sad part about it is? That is across the landscape in all cultures, all societies, all income brackets. It's actually an epidemic now. But thank goodness, Nick, we have some solid fathers who have stayed in the gap and been there regardless of the circumstances, because they know what second, third, fourth generation is going to look like if they abdicate their role. So those fathers, they need to be appraised for the sacrifices, the investments that they make, where They get up, do the work, don't complain, show up, and are still not afraid to give firm correction, edification that is internal. And this is why fatherhood is so important, because right now, as a real good father, your number one objective is to applaud, build up the internal spiritual foundation of your daughter and your son, letting them know that the only important things are character. Letting them know that, you know what? I want to be told about you on how well you treat people, how polite, how respectful, how hardworking you are, how diligent you are. I don't want to have somebody telling me, wow, your daughter is so beautiful. I don't want anybody telling me your son is so athletic. He's so skilled. What I want to hear is your daughter is so polite, so well-mannered, such a nice young girl, and is always, the most unselfish person in the room. And then I want to come and reinforce those characteristics versus those physical attributes so that you really know what your value is, so you don't be pulled into this social cesspool that we're in right now. That's the importance of fatherhood. The other importance of fatherhood is allowing your children to see you working, doing manly things. What do I mean? Changing the tire, taking out the garbage, handling the yard work, paying the bills, the mortgage, the food, the school, the car insurance, and allowing mom to do the things that enable mom to be that dainty flower that needs to be nurtured with the sunshine. And seeing mom come up to the door when dad arrives and have the children around her and say, hey, the king is home. Jump in daddy's lap, jump up in his arms, let him know how much we appreciate daddy for the work he does for us. And then seeing dad in exchange show affection in the positive way, embrace his children, ask them about their day, embrace mom, hug her, kiss her, laugh with her. These things are important. And then most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, what's a solid father headship is when you actually make an accord with your wife and you say, you know what? There's going to be times we don't see eye to eye. There's going to be times when the children may try to play us against each other. But here's what we're never going to do. We're never going to argue in front of our children. We're never going to debase one another and attack the person, but we're going to address the problem. We're going to allow the man to lead and not have to be criticized every move he makes. Because the man is naturally going to make bad decisions. The woman naturally is going to make bad decisions. However, we have to be able to be in agreement that we can go down this pathway as one. And most importantly, show the children that your number one confidant and counselor on the planet is no other than mom. where the children will see the father say to the mother, honey, what do you think about this? How did you feel about that business person that I was sitting down with, even though the numbers look great? What's your intake, honey? Now, mom is doing her job because she has a father that she can respect and love to lead her. And the father knows he has the number one confidant, cheerleader, supporter, nurturer in the mother. But how do we get there, Nick? We get there because 1, 2, 3 generations ago, your father's father was a great example that led to his grandchildren's children to lead to you and I. But today, we live in a blame, victim, want to take the easy road out, and that's not the way to go. So it makes fatherhood, Nick, even harder today than ever before. But you know what? It allows us to stand up above the crowd even further when you see a man who is leading the right way in fatherhood. Because the fruit's on the tree, Nick. Here's what I always share with people. Don't judge me. Judge me by my children. And see, a lot of people, they want to get a pass on that when they babyfy and allow their children. But guess what? That's really a reflection of you. Nobody's children is perfect. But to have character, have etiquette, have kindness, have empathy, that comes from you sitting down at the table, sharing the rules and the love of how this family is going to move forward together. And that goes back to, if you didn't have that example in your house, but you had exposure to The Cosby Show, Father Knows Best, The Courtship of Eddie's Father, My Three Sons. Go look these shows up. All those shows had in common a strong father figure. And it requires work. And it's a, like you said, Nick, a 24/7, 365 job. It is a tireless job, a thankless job, but the reward is your generation after your generation, or the destruction for the immediate generation and the next generation. That's the difference. And we need to start focusing more on that and being more cognizant of uplifting the father, uplifting the dad. And at the same time, the dad ought to be aware of the dangers of abdicating his role. And again, you have fathers, ladies and gentlemen, that actually have two-parent households with mom and dad, but the father is just allowing the currency to represent him in his stead of his physical presence as well. So you dads out there who are successful economically and always on the road, and you're providing all the materialistic things that your children need, and you don't think that that's a problem, I'm going to tell you to check yourself and make sure you invest in your children, because guess what? The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And when you're not around, somebody else is fathering your children. Think about that. So I would hope that not only on Sunday, you're going to give your dad amazing love and appreciation. But I would hope that your dad, once or twice a week, sits down with you, give you some one-on-one time, even if it's just watching a movie, playing a video game with you, just ask you how your day is, even though your dad may be tired, but just sit there and listen, because you're planting seeds every single day. I'm a proud father of 4 amazing children, and I'm so grateful that God gave me the stewardship. And man, it ain't easy. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because it's the most joy that I have ever received. Because here's the one thing that's so great about fatherhood. Same thing with motherhood. This is the only time that you're going to get unconditional love. And conversely, you ought to be giving unconditional love as well. Nothing like it. There's nothing like it to have your child run up to you, smile on their face. You ain't done nothing special that day. Dad, love you. The same thing is true. Yesterday, my daughter, she got back from a trip, went and picked her up, played tennis. I'm tired. She's tired. But in the midst of an hour and a half playing tennis together, man, that's a bond that only gets stronger and can't get broken. To have my son come and sit down, tell me about his day in his STEM program for college and how excited he was, learned a new way to do math that cleared up some of the things he was trying to understand about quadratic equations, knowing I had no interest in that because them days was way gone. But I'm sitting there, yeah, man, that's fired up, because I'm fired up that he's fired up. You know what I'm saying? And then to have the ability to be just me and him hanging out for 2-3 weeks at a time, dropping him off at school. We go see Bad Boys 4. He don't even know who Martin Lawrence is, because, you know, he's a young guy, but end up loving the movie. You know what I mean? So now we got stuff to talk about forever. And here's the great thing, guys. We did the movie event with another of our partner, Gerald. Shout out to him in the A-Team. So it's all strong brothers fellowshipping with brothers. And he's got 2 twins who are 12, and my son's 17. So my son is being taught how to be a big brother to them, which is fatherhood. And then shout out to my homeboy, Eric. And every year we would go to the father and sons golf tournament together. But because Eric is now living on the West Coast, we didn't get to do that, you know, this year, this upcoming weekend. But those things, those traditions. So here's what your job is as a father. Your job is not to be your child's friend. Your job is to steward your son to become a man. Your job is to steward your daughter to know what type of man she should aspire to marry. So what does that mean? That means that you should take your daughter out on a play date. You should encourage your daughter for the characteristics that you want to see in her, and set the bar so high that the knucklehead can have millions of dollars and your daughter will not be lured in by that, because she has a value of herself. And at the same time, your job is to show your daughter how she should revere a righteous man. The same thing with you, with your son. Hey, open the door. Speak with reverence for your girlfriend. Listen. Dedicate time to cater to her. Don't over spoil her until she's your wife, but treat her with a reverence and a respect that she can't get anywhere else. Ensure that you have a plan. You have a dream. You're a hard worker. You're empathetic. This is fatherhood. And then you create a conducive environment, Nick, that is predicated on legacy. See, one thing I've taught my children from the day they came out of the womb, you are winners, leaders, and shepherds. And every time we have an opportunity to emphasize those attributes of character, man, dude, we shine the spotlight on it. And at the same time, we diffuse and we undervalue the physical attributes, meaning we don't speak about them much in my household. And that may sound counterintuitive to you, but think about this. What is the problem in today's society? People think that looking good is an actual physical attribute that is actually a characteristic trait. It's not. Unfortunately, it's the currency that we live on. And it's actually one of the reasons why we are where we are today in today's society. When the currency should be character, ethics, discipline. So we de-emphasize, that was the word I was really looking for, Nick. We de-emphasize the physical and we overemphasize the characteristic traits. Hardworking, kind, disciplined, diligent. These things, when we have a chance to shower them with praise, those are the things we're praising, Nick. And if we did more of that in today's society, we wouldn't have this wuss fest happening. We are in the era of the wuss fest. That's right, the wuss fest. But real dads that are raising winners, leaders, and shepherds, they stand on principles. And those are the fathers that we salute and take our hats off, because without them, we wouldn't have a semblance of hope still in America alone. So I want to shout out to my grandfather, who's no longer with us, Theodore, who I named my son after. I want to shout out to my dad. I want to give a shout out to all the fathers that have continued to pay the cost without condemning, complaining, or criticizing, and to allow their children to see what a real man is. And your children, when asked, no matter if they're 1 or 100, who's your hero? And beyond a shadow of a doubt, instantaneously, they should say dad, mom, granddad, grandma. How's that look in your household? If your children are so busy pining, thirsty for these athletes, entertainers, and politicians that they are so enamored with that they want to be like them, guess what? You haven't done your job. So what I would encourage you to do is sit down, and if you're not the dad that you want to be, find one that you can line up with principally and ask that person to mentor you. And guess what? I'm not talking about the young fathers, the ones that, are 25, 30 years of age. If you are a father and you're in your 40s and your 50s and you've had challenges with your children, hey, don't blame the mother. Blame yourself. Now, there are some extenuating circumstances, ladies and gentlemen, that sometimes through, divorce and things of that the court has intervened, but that's even more so when you got to dig in deeper. And I can tell you, it ain't easy, but it's worth every investment that you have to invest in making sure you are present, because that is the present to your children. And if you're right now watching this and you're having challenges and you're married, hey, do yourself a favor. Number one, drop down on your knees and ask God to intervene and intercede on your behalf. I don't care who you call your God. But at the end of the day, we know there's only really one Father. Drop down on your knees. Ask for forgiveness. Then ask for help. And once you do that, then sit down, pick up the good book, BK1, and start with Proverbs. 1 day per day, read the Proverbs of that day. So today is the 14th. I will start reading Proverbs 14, meditate and pray on it. And then I will put a plan together on how I would want my relationship to be better with my wife, with my fiance, my girlfriend. If I'm living, in a relationship with the woman and I have children and I have not tied the knot, I would ask for that relationship to be, better. And then I would sit down and I will put a game plan together. And then I would sit down with my wife, with the mother of my children, with my girlfriend and my children. And I would say, hey, can we press reset? And if it was a perfect world, how would that world look to you in terms of how you want me to be a great father, a great man, and a great husband to you? And gentlemen, just sit back and listen. But most importantly, take notes. And take those notes to heart, because no relationship is not without saving. Because the relationship that you're saving is the legacy of your children's children. You are literally raising your grandchildren's children with what you're doing today as a father, or what you're not doing. And it's so easy to point the finger and point the blame, but it's a lot harder to hold up and be accountable, but the rewards are the best. And I know some of these things are easier said than done, ladies and gentlemen, but again, this is what fatherhood is all about. It's about those tireless days, going to the recitals, going to the practices, going to the PTA meetings, dropping them off at school, picking them up from school, putting them on your car insurance. Even though you're aces, it still doubles, but doing it with joy in your heart. Because your boy had to do that reluctantly. It's about planning those little vacations, those getaways. And it's about always making your children feel special and loved, and also knowing again that you're not their friend as you're raising them up as their steward, but your goal is to raise them up right, that in life you become their best friends as adults together. That's the perfect fatherhood headship, ladies and gentlemen. Or you can have the opposite of that. You don't go to hell, but you meet your kids in hell with you. That's what the abdication of fatherhood looks like. And we're getting a ton of that. You know how we know? Because you've never seen so many grown boys and grown girls who are out of control with no respect for authority, for family, for community, for country. Because you know what, Nick? They have never been taught self-respect, true self-love, true self-esteem, because you did not stand up to the course and take the proper action. And guess what? I came from a broken family. So that's not an excuse. If you out here, fornicating and creating babies and say, hey, I grew up in a dysfunctional family without a father, so I'm going to do the same thing. But let's just give a shout out to those great dads, those ones that do everything, that are so flawless that you think that they were born to be dads. You know the ones we're talking about, and you have those in your house. I know you do. And people come from all around to honor your dad and your grandfather, and you sit there and you are proud to be their child, their grandchild, because they laid the foundation and did the hard work during the hard times. You know what they said? Hard times produce tough people. Tough people produce good times, but good times produce weak people. So if you are the recipient of a great dad, a great grandfather, and your life has been pretty much a piece of cake and roses all the time, I'm going to challenge you to make sure you still let those children and those children know that how did we get it this good? If you happen to receive a scholarship, a new house, a new car, whatever, and it didn't require much for you because you had a great dad, a great grandfather, you should take a moment and say, I'm grateful, I'm thankful for these opportunities, and most importantly, how can I pay it forward? One thing that great dads do, they surround themselves, Nick, with other great dads. And the great thing about it is they have their children together, like I said, with Eric and I, the father and son golf tournament, father and son vacation. So you're starting a tradition that you don't have to tell your children about because they're active participants in it. And guess what, Nick? They aspire to have the same thing. Because they see all the joy, all the continuity, all the fun, all the fellowship. And you don't have to say much to them. And you'll see they'll start doing the same thing. One of the things that I'm most honored by is that my sons, they have chosen great friends, and I tell them, you don't need but 2-3 friends. And select them and be discriminate about it. Be prejudiced about it. and check the fruit on your friend's tree. Make sure those friends have good fathers, good mothers, because they have a standard that has nothing to do with money. This is what great fatherhood looks like, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why we're excited to honor fathers on Father's Day beginning weekend with this Friday on Family Finance Friday with DJ the Money Coach and Nick Westbrooks, because this is something we should do every day. Just like I said, I found out that the Alphabet Mafia, they have almost 30% of fictitious holidays made up to glorify their debauchery. We have one weekend. Mothers have one weekend. You see anything wrong with that story? And we don't say anything about it. We might have one grandpa and grandma weekend. It's almost like, with Black History Month, 28 days out of the year when it's 24/7, 365. But that's not sexy. But what's sexy is the end results of stability and legacy. So let me give you one last tip before we get out of here. If you want to ensure that you have a great family and you raise boys to become honorable men and you raise girls to become great women, the best thing you can do is always take your children everywhere you go in all positive environments and let them soak it up like a sponge, and it would never leave their soul or their spirit, and you'll never have to tell them because they're living it on a day-to-day basis. That's right. Take them to school, take them to the job, take them to the conference, take them to the vacation. The reality is there's so much around you, they don't want to be without you. And yes, they're going to become, adolescents, teenagers, young adults, but they're always going to enjoy time spent with you because they know you are their safety, their harbor, their pastor, and their provider. And no other place they want to be on the earth is with you because they aspire to be like you and they look forward to always hanging out with you. And that's not the exception to the rule. That is the rule. And let me share this with you. If you're not the benefactor of that type of relationship, don't be envious of it. That's easy to do. How do I know? I've been there. I used to be envious when I saw two-parent household together and a great father. It made me mad. I didn't know no better, but then I learned. So I aspired to find somebody that would be a third party surrogate for myself in those times that we were down without that headship. And we need more of that today. So shout out to the people who set up, the boys club, the YMCAs, the groups that we have that focus on, menship with men, with young boys. And they take them out on trips and teach them character and teach them basic skills. These life skills that we've gotten away from. And I have to, raise my hand because I'm guilty of this too. We're so quick to pay for everything. How about if you have, a 13, 14-year-old son, go out there and teach him how to change a tire on a car. Matter of fact, I'm going to take my advice and I'm going to do that with my son. These basic things. They have a sickening commercial where they show this young adult kid, maybe 17, 18, 19, and he's calling the, roadside service to get his tire changed. Man, that's the most effeminate thing I've ever seen, man. but that is prevalent in today's society. So that's what fatherhood is about. That's why it's important to honor our fathers. Matter of fact, we had to run a quick video on one of those great programs that we can see. And again, if you happen to be the person that have not had the benefit of having a strong father figure in your life, and you are someone between the ages of, let's say, 9 to 21, and you need a father figure, man, call us. 866-395-3042. 866-395-3042. And we'll do everything possible to help in that area, because that is the importance of why we have to get back on the right side of the track and get away from all this craziness that we are, witnessing every day. Right now is so important for real men to stand up and be accountable as fathers, because we are devoid of them in today's society. And I'll say shout out to King Randall down there in Albany, Georgia, who's doing a great job teaching young, boys to become men by showing them basic skills, life skills, how to change tires, change batteries, change oil, do carpentry, all this great stuff, and getting all this crazy pushback from being a leader. And here's a gentleman who at 19, he had to teach himself. And now at the young age, I think he's 24, 25, he's doing a remarkable job, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to say this to the single women who are parents out there. Hey, stop preventing your children's father from seeing them because of your own personal differences with them. If that person is trying to do the best he can to be part of his child's life, hey, let that beef that you have with him, let it rest and not rob your son, and most importantly, your daughter, of the important years in their life, so they don't end up on the stripper pole or they don't end up on the drug game, or they don't end up becoming a womanizer, or they don't end up becoming this, power babe or boss chick who, I don't need nobody, I got everything. And the reality is they'll be like, Miss Fox at 60 years of age talking about she want to be married for the first time. Hey, I'm just going to keep it a buck with you, because that's prevalent in our community. Matter of fact, look at this most recent example, Ebony K. Williams. She purposely used the in vitro scientific, injection to have her own baby. What a selfish act. In vitro fertilization costs $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. But here's the most important part that she gonna miss. You're gonna raise a daughter without a man in her life because you don't need one. And you really think that's gonna be a success. Delusional. Delusional, man. So what are you going to say to that young girl? Where's my dad at? Do you not think that that child ever going to want to know where's her dad at? But in this case, Nick, she doesn't have a dad. She has a dad, but she don't have a dad. A donor. Not she was married, couldn't have a baby with her and her husband. This young lady, she takes it on herself because she make all this money. She got everything. And in her own selfish mind, she's going to impregnate herself and raise a child by herself. And the irony of that, she came from a solid family. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. How many young ladies out there wishing they could have a father in their lives? And again, just like the young lady said, you want the paycheck? Or what if you had a broke father who was a righteous father who did everything he could? He just wasn't making all the money, but he was solid. And the young lady clearly said, I get the paycheck, but I'll give that paycheck up to immediately have the father to my children. That's the world we live in, Nick. And everything that you see somebody do wrong, I can show you the etymology of how it goes back to the absenteeism of their father. And you're probably saying, DJ, that's a crazy for you to say that. You're talking out the side of your neck. Okay, just show me a situation, and we'll break it down to its very last compound, like KRS-One used to say. I can tell you, every time I did something stupid, I could tell you because it did not have a consequence that I was taught prior when there was a void in my life for those couple of years without a father. And especially when I thought I was full of myself. I was intelligent. I was gifted. I was being, showered with all this admiration. Oh, you're so this. Oh, you look so that. Oh, you so pumped head. If I had a man there, hey man, you ain't all that. If you thinking about going on the wrong side, nah, man, because you know what? I'm going to put you straight. And you know what? Show you how powerful fatherhood is. There's a pastor out there. I think his name is E.W. Williams, something like that. And he talks about how he's 72 years of age. He's a pastor. And he talks about how he was brought up and his mother had given him away. So he was raised by an adoptive mother, and his dad lived in the community. He would see his dad. And he was in his young teens, and he would hang out on the street, start getting on the wrong side, hanging out with the gangs. And he's a leader because he's got leadership natural tendencies. And one day he said his dad rolled up. He looked out. He rolled down the window because his dad wasn't doing his job. And he yelled over, whatever his name, EKEW, something like that. Hey, he looks up. He said, yeah. He said, oh yeah, Dad. He said, hey man, come here. He said, you always been saying you wanted to live with me. And today is that day. He said, what? He said, yeah, get in the car. Because the man who wasn't doing his job, because he was a grown boy, he allowed his son to be adopted, raised by, adoptive parent. So he abdicated his role so he can do his thing. But they lived in the same community, and he kept seeing his son starting to go the wrong way because he's a leader. So he's going to lead doing the wrong thing. And his son would say, hey, Dad, I always wanted to live with you. So he pulls over, ladies and gentlemen. He calls him. He hops in the car. They drive to the adoptive parent's house, or whatever they call it from the orphan home standpoint, where she had legal authority over this young teenage guy. And so they walk into the house. He said, the nicest lady you ever meet. And he says, whatever her name, Miss Smith, my son is moving in with me. And she said, oh, no, we can't do it. He said, no, guess what? If I don't take my son now, he's going to end up in jail or in prison because he's out here on this corner right now. And so the lady breaks down. She cries. And she said, what? Give me a chance to transition. No, we're doing it right now. He said, you either can be with me or you can be against me. and the law's on your side, but I think you know it's best for me to raise my son going forward today. Kudos to the lady. She allowed him to take the son, and I'm sure they worked out the paperwork and stuff down the road. But he said that was a pivotal point in his life, Nick. And his dad immediately drove him to his house, little small apartment. And first thing he said, hey, this is what you wanted. This is how it's going to be. I don't have much, and I have not been a man raising my son. But today I'm changing, because if I don't, you're going to end up where you don't belong, and a legacy I will never have. And he said that day, man, changed his life. He's now an amazing pastor over a congregation of real men, real women, and real children. But that day, his father became a man and became a dad. So I don't care how bad your situation is. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel if you look for it. And if you are a, leaderless man who has children, today is that day that you can become the father of the future that your grandchildren's children need you to be. That's the beauty of forgiveness. So how about we do this, ladies and gentlemen? How about we afford some grace, some mercy, and some empathy, and allow those men to become righteous fathers and set aside the childhood behavior and the childish, characteristics, and let them stand up today on June 14th and become that man. And if you, right now, young ladies, you have a father who's still out there, who's health, who's able, and no matter what the relationship that you have, it is estranged. If he's not capable of picking up the phone, how about you do it? And dad, you're listening to this and you are estranged from your children. How about you show some courage? Put that bottle down. Put that drink down. Put that weed down. Put that drug down. How about you pick up that phone and you make that call too? And regardless of what the outcome is, you put forth an effort. And all it takes to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So if you make that call, shoot that email, send that text, and your heart is with God, I can assure you that you can eventually rebuild, refurbish, re-energize that relationship. That's the most important one, because that's your name on back of the jersey. And don't come asking for anything. Just be present. My favorite comedian, Lavelle Crawford, he talked about how he never met his dad. And he found out that his dad wasn't his dad because his mom didn't own up to some stuff. But then he found out who his dad was. And after he was already successful, he went and found his dad. And his dad didn't ask him for anything. And he started building a relationship with him, man. You got all different kinds of success stories, Nick, as it pertains to fatherhood. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we are designed by God to want to be great fathers. Understand that. We are designed by God to want to be great mothers. But we allow circumstances and situations to give us excuses to abdicate our role. And here at our organization, we say, you know what? An excuse is a reason stuffed inside of a lie. An excuse is a reason stuffed inside of a lie. Justification, rationale, they all the same. The hardest thing to do is to stand up, look in the mirror, and self-identify and reflect on who you are, who you're not, and who you should be. And the best way to start is to find somebody directly, indirectly, or if it's just going back and looking at some videos of some great fictional fathers, and you can draw on that. Or go out to a park, go to a ball game, go to a father and son event, and just see how the camaraderie is between the father and son, and imagine you and your son having that relationship. Go to a father and daughter's dance and see how you would look with your daughter dancing with her, to give you the encourage and the inspiration to get back to that point. Because every child, albeit a grown man, grown woman who did not have that father in their lives, are waiting for you to make that call and make that move. I can assure you. And yes, maybe 5% of them don't want to have nothing ever to do with them regardless, but that's a very minority. 95% of men who grew up without their fathers and women who grew up without their fathers, they will welcome that relationship being rekindled, rebuilt, and re-energized. But unfortunately, their pride, their ego, and most importantly, their hurt, Nick, prevents them from making that first step. That's the hardest one. So dad, make that call, make that step. And for the dads who are doing it the right way, man, keep doing what you do. Keep loving your family. Keep disciplining your children. Keep showing them the work. Let your actions speak so loudly they can't hear the words. So, Nick, I think I've said more than I need to say. I hope that this message from us resonates with you in some shape, size, or form. And if it only encourages and inspires one person, we've done our job. Because at the end of the day, if we can save one, we can save many. I'm DJ the Money Coach. You're watching Family Finance Friday, honoring of our fathers with Nick Westbrooks. So without that, we're going to turn it over to Nick. Let him say his shout outs to whom he wants to shout out, because, hey, it wouldn't be right if we don't honor that family and the ones that are close to us. So, Nick, take it away, my friend.
Yes, of course. So, of course, shout out, to my father. He definitely exemplified everything that, DJ mentioned in his discussion of the positive attributes and aspects of fatherhood. My father, he worked very hard, but he also planted those seeds. When I say he worked hard, he worked in the corporate office of the local newspaper in the circulation department, and he worked overnights. So he would go into work at 2:00 in the morning, put the newspapers together, go out, deliver them, get off work at noon. He might take a nap for a little bit, get up, go out and do some landscaping, cut some lawns and in the spring and summertime, clean up leaves in the fall, remove snow in the winter, but he would still be at every single one of my games, practices, when he wasn't working. And it's funny because my mother, was just telling me last weekend. I guess him and my father, and my mother, they were having, conversation, just reminiscing about my childhood. And my father was telling my mother about all of the cartoons that he would have to sit through and watch with me. And my mom was just naming them all off, all of the cartoons I used to watch on Nickelodeon. So he would sit there on the floor with me and watch episode after episode after episode of those cartoons, even though I know he was sick of them and couldn't stand some of them that I used to watch. So he definitely did that. One lesson, very simple but profound lesson that he taught me, very young, so profound that I remember it to this day, was that, whatever you do in life, there's three main things that you need. You need your head, your heart, and your hands. So you need your head to use your logic and intelligence for whatever task that you're completing. You use your hands if it's a physical activity. You use your hands to complete the activity, and you use your heart to put your passion and put your all into that task. And that was that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I took away after all of these years. And another thing that that really stood out about him was that he really believed in the village, the village aspect. So he never took it as disrespect or a slight or offense if another man gave me guidance or gave me advice or poured into me, whether that be the men in the church, my coaches, my teachers. He would allow them to have that time and that space with me, without like I said, without feeling disrespected or being selfish about it, because my father taught me a lot, but each older man that I interacted with, they all had a piece of the puzzle. They all taught me a different lesson or shared a different experience with me. Whether it was positive or negative, I was able to, learn something from it. So, I'm definitely grateful for that. So shout out to my father and shout out to all of the other men in my life, whether they were related or not related to me, that stood in the gap and, was a part of that village that reared me over the years.
So man, that's so true. You said that. Two things real quickly before we part.
Yep.
Coaches played a tremendous value in my life, all from, elementary school to college. Man, coaches are so underrated in today's society than ever before. The second thing is the humility that your father shown, that he was wise enough to know that he didn't know everything. And he was so confident and comfortable in being himself. He knew another leader could impact you, and he allowed them to impact you. And we don't do that today. And we got to get back to that, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I love that. Head, heart, man, and hands. Yep. That is what it's all about. Guys, we got to get back to that. So what better way to end honoring our fathers than to honor, Mr. Westbrooks, who had the wisdom and the humility to actually allow you to be impacted by a village of other wise men and coaches. And that's the reason why you're such a great guy, Nick. Shout out to all the fathers. Shout out to Mr. Green. Shout out to Mr. Hobbs. Shout out to Mr. Williams. Shout out to Mr. Bishop. Let's see who else we got. Let me see. Trying to remember. Shout out to Mr. Jones. Shout out to Mr. Squalls. Shout out to Mr. Jackson. And shout out to Mr. Phillips. And shout out to Mr. Adusa as well. These are the fathers of the people who help us put this amazing organization together called DJ the Money Coach. And shout out to the grandfathers and the ones who have already risen to stand beside their Lord in heaven. May God honor their servitude, leadership as great fathers. Thank you for watching, and we appreciate you. Have a magnificent Father's Day weekend. And again, enjoy it with a pom-pom lifestyle mentality. That's plenty of money and peace of mind. Today's beach is fatherhood and family. We'll see you next time.
Some of the best things that I like about Zanzibar was being on the land, seeing the emerald water.
Got to see the island, connect with the people, do exclusive luxury experiences that you'll only get on the island of Zanzibar.
The beach, fresh food, the people. I mean, I could write a short book about what I experienced here.
Eating the best fruit, vegetables, seafood.
Met some amazing people. We had an amazing time.
I like the tours that we went on, the Spice Island, and the Paradise Island.
See the snorkeling. That was an exclusive experience. Huge sandbar. That was set up like our private dining area. The sand is soft, the water's warm.
Unadulterated, pure, simple, Zanzibar.
So the opportunity in Zanzibar is very, 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 very clear. There is nothing but economical growth and development happening right now.
Zanzibar, just because it's an up and coming area.
You get here and you see the opportunity.
And then you come on the African side, you get to see even a different type of togetherness.
Being able to ask questions, and DJ was just like, hey, ask me anything.
Plenty of money and peace of mind. Zanzibar all day.